In May 1991, Sergei Krikalev left Earth as a Soviet citizen. Before he came home, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. His home city changed its name. The launch site became part of another country. The government that had sent him into orbit disappeared, and Krikalev was still circling the planet every 90 minutes. The internet often tells this as the story of a man abandoned in space. That is not quite what happened. A return capsule was attached to the station. Technically, he could come down, but if he did, the space station Mir could be left without the flight engineer who knew how to keep it alive. So while a superpower collapsed beneath him, Krikalev stayed at his post. On May 19, 1991, a Soyuz rocket lifted from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. Inside were British astronaut Helen Sharman, Soviet commander Anatoly Artsebarsky, and 33-year-old flight engineer Sergei Krikalev. Their destination was Mir, an aging chain of pressurized modules moving above Earth at nearly 8 kilometers per second. For Krikalev, this was not a first visit. He had already spent more than 5 months on Mir. He understood its temperamental systems, the fans, pumps, computers, batteries, and life support equipment that never truly stopped demanding attention. On the ground, a broken machine can wait. In orbit, the wrong failure can take away your air. Sharman returned to Earth after about a week. Krikalev and Artsebarsky remained. Krikalev expected to be away for roughly 5 months, long but normal for the era. His work was scientific, mechanical, and relentlessly repetitive. Experiments, repairs, exercise, radio calls, then another sunrise. For Mir, 16 sunrises could pass in a single day. In August, the routine fractured. Hardline officials in Moscow attempted to seize power from Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. Tanks appeared in the capital. News reports reaching Mir were confused and incomplete. The coup failed after 3 days, but the Union was already coming apart. Republic after republic declared independence. The crisis reached all the way into orbit. Baikonur, the launch complex that supported Mir, now stood inside the soon-to-be independent Republic of Kazakhstan. Moscow was running out of money. Spaceflight schedules became entangled with new borders, new negotiations, and new political demands. A replacement crew was supposed to relieve the men aboard Mir. But the plan changed. Kazakhstan wanted one of its own citizens represented on an upcoming flight. A guest cosmonaut could be trained for a short visit, but not quickly enough to replace an experienced long-duration flight engineer. The station still needed someone who knew every alarm, every procedure, and every improvised fix. That person was Krikalev. In October, a new Soyuz arrived. Artsebarsky went home. Another veteran, Alexander Volkov, joined the station. Krikalev did not take the empty seat down. His mission was extended, then extended again. This is the important difference between reality and the legend. Krikalev was not cut off. Mission Control spoke with him. Supply vehicles still reached Mir. A Soyuz remained available as an emergency lifeboat, and Krikalev agreed to stay. But agreement is not the same as comfort. He knew that every extra week in weightlessness would make returning to gravity harder. On Earth, human bones are constantly loaded by body weight. In orbit, that load disappears. Muscles weaken. The heart no longer works against gravity in the same way. Body fluids shift toward the head. Exercise can slow the damage, but it cannot erase it. Krikalev had prepared for months in space, not an open-ended mission during the collapse of his country. Meanwhile, the details of his identity were changing below him. In September 1991, his home city of Leningrad officially became St. Petersburg again. Then on Christmas Day, Gorbachev resigned. The following day, the Soviet Union was formally dissolved. Krikalev had launched under a red Soviet flag. Now, there was no Soviet Union to return to. Imagine watching that transformation from hundreds of kilometers above it. Borders are invisible from orbit. Countries pass beneath you in minutes. Yet every radio call, every supply ship, and every decision about your return depends on governments, budgets, and lines drawn on maps. Mir kept moving as if nothing had happened. One orbit, then another. Krikalev worked, exercised, and maintained the station. Below him, new nations issued new currencies and raised new flags. Above them, one of the last Soviet missions continued inside a machine built by a vanished state. Finally, a relief crew was prepared. On March 25, 1992, Krikalev, Volkov, and German astronaut Klaus-Dietrich Flade climbed into Soyuz TM-13 and separated from Mir. The capsule tore into the atmosphere behind a shield of superheated air. Parachutes opened over Kazakhstan. After 10 months away, Krikalev was coming home to a country that had not existed when he left. His mission lasted 311 days, 20 hours, and 1 minute. In that time, he had traveled roughly 130 million miles and completed close to 5,000 orbits. When recovery crews opened the capsule, gravity was no longer ordinary. After so many months without weight, simply holding up his own body required help. He had not broken the all-time space endurance record, but no other mission had crossed a political transformation quite like this one. Krikalev went up as a citizen of the Soviet Union and came down as a citizen of the Russian Federation. The letters and symbols on his equipment belonged to history before he had even landed. And the story did not end there. 2 years later, Krikalev boarded the American Space Shuttle Discovery. He became the first Russian cosmonaut to fly on a NASA shuttle, the representative of a former rival, now working inside an American spacecraft. In 1998, he helped begin construction of the International Space Station. In 2000, he returned as a member of its first permanent crew. The man remembered as the last Soviet citizen did not become a relic of the Cold War. He helped build what came after it. That is why Krikalev's real story is stranger than the myth. He was not a forgotten passenger waiting helplessly for rescue. He was an engineer who understood that coming home could endanger the station he had been trusted to protect. While his nation disappeared beneath him, he kept the lights on above it. For 311 days, Sergei Krikalev watched the world change from a place where borders could not be seen. He left Earth belonging to one country. He returned belonging to another. And somewhere between those two moments, history moved faster than the spacecraft carrying him.